From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Montana's major races are decided, but we still don't know who the next president of the United States will be and might not for days or weeks. Here's how the race now stands. Democrat Joe Biden is at 237 electoral votes, now projected to win Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin. That would give him 264 of the 270 needed. President Trump is at 213, but leading in Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, and Alaska. If that holds, he would be at 268, and it would all come down to Nevada and its 6 electoral votes to decide the election. Nevada not expected to release any more results until tomorrow. There's also the possibility of court challenges in several states. Well, Democrats and Republicans look like they're battling to a draw over control of the national government. There's no doubt which party came out on top in Montana yesterday. Republicans swept to victory here at almost every level in races for state and federal offices. MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison has the lowdown on the red wave in the Big Sky State.
Going into Election Day, polls had shown the major statewide races in Montana to be relatively close. But with most of the votes counted by this morning, that was not the case, as Republicans won big up and down the ticket. Republican U.S. Senator Steve Daines easily turned back a challenge from Democratic Governor Steve Bullock, 55 to 45%. Late Tuesday evening, Daines thanked supporters in his hometown of Bozeman and noted that his victory appears to have helped keep the U.S. Senate in Republican hands, despite an avalanche of outside money spent to defeat him.
And I'm grateful that the good common sense, the good horse sense of Montanans didn't listen to all that out-of-state money from Chuck Schumer flooding into Montana.
Republican Congressman Greg Gianforte cruised to victory in the governor's race, beating Lieutenant Governor Mike Cooney 54 to 42%. At his victory speech Tuesday night, Gianforte said voters sent a clear signal that they want a change in the state's direction.
You made your voices heard. You said you wanted a leader who could get the economy going again, a leader to get Montana's back in good-paying jobs, a leader who will protect our Montana way of life, and a leader who will change how we do business in Helena.
In the race for Montana's U.S. House seat, Republican Matt Rosendale beat Democrat Kathleen Williams 56 to 44%. And as expected, President Trump won Montana, but it wasn't even close. He defeated Joe Biden by 16 points, 57 to 41%. But the GOP rout didn't stop there. Republican candidates also won the races for Attorney General, State Auditor, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, and Secretary of State. And they won 3 contested seats on the State Public Service Commission. Same story in the state legislature. The GOP picked up as many as 9 seats in the Montana House, expanding their majority to 67 to 33. And they increased their advantage in the state Senate by 1 to 31 to 19. How did the GOP pull off such a dominant performance? 1, they crushed it in rural counties, often winning by 3-1 margins or better. 2, they won big in Billings and turned formerly Democratic Cascade County and Great Falls red. Every GOP statewide candidate won the county with ease, and Republicans won every legislative seat there on the ballot. And 3, Democrats showed strength in very few places that matter: Missoula, Bozeman, and Butte. But that's about it. Could this be a political realignment for a state once seen as a purple outlier in the region? It sure looks that way. We had a record turnout on Tuesday, but it appears that a lot of those new voters voted Republican. In Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
And vote totals are mostly complete across Montana, although a few counties were still counting some ballots late today. Perhaps the most surprising outcome last night was in the race for Montana's U.S. Senate seat. Incumbent Republican Steve Daines gave his supporters good news right around midnight. MTN's Casey Conlon caught up with the now 2-term senator this morning to discuss the win and what's next.
It was a late night here in Bozeman for Republican Senator Steve Daines, although maybe not as late as most people were expecting. It was supposed to be a 1 to 2 point race against Democratic challenger Steve Bullock. But in the end, a double-digit victory. Daines was just as surprised as the rest of us.
I don't think anybody saw a 10-point win coming. And yet Montanans understood what was at stake in this election. Despite the fact, I think it will be a, $170, $180 million race. Montanans didn't seem to be persuaded by all that out-of-state money.
Typically, a higher voter turnout tends to benefit Democratic candidates, with that turnout often coming from younger, more liberal voters. But Daines didn't see it that way.
We thought a high turnout was going to be a good thing for our campaign. Montanans were very passionate about this election. We saw that. They wanted to make sure that we protected this Montana way of life for limited federal government, to protect the fundamental rights of Montanans.
Preserving and expanding those rights is central to Daines' next term, especially in terms of local economic growth.
When you win an election like this comes great responsibility, because there's a lot of issues that we need to address going forward. Montana is 44th in the nation in per capita income. So we need good, high-paying jobs here in Montana.
The biggest difference in Daines' second term might be at the top. If Democratic challenger Joe Biden wins the presidential election, Daines' Republican-controlled Senate will have to fight much harder to pass legislation.
You've got to find ways to get results. That's why I've worked with Dianne Feinstein, a senator from California working with a Republican from Montana on forest management reforms. That's how you get something done. You're going to have to find some common ground going forward to get results.
We'll see just how much that Republican majority in the Senate will matter, depending, of course, on the presidential outcome. In Bozeman, Casey Conlon for MTN News.
Thank you, Casey. As the vote count trickles in across the country today, both parties are doing some soul searching on how they try to attract voters into their column. In many cases, it boils down to more of a urban versus rural divide rather than Republican versus Democrat. MTN's Jay Cohn spoke today with political analyst Ashley Strong and Eric Stern to get their perspectives.
I would say that I think Democrats had anticipated that they would have stronger support amongst certain demographics of what was traditionally their base. We had to discuss this last night, but Hispanics, Miami-Dade, Latino individuals across the country, obviously they're not monolithic and they don't vote the same way. And I think that for too long, the Democratic Party has sort of counted on these groups as monolithic groups that they could rely on, whether they're in urban or rural areas. And that just hasn't been borne out in the results that we're seeing today. Really, success is won on the issues and talking directly to voters about these issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Ashley, and the Democrats have become a party that focuses first and foremost on, your identity and your membership in a group and your skin color and your gender and all of these different things. And on the one hand, it's a continuation of civil rights concepts that I think is important for this country to have, but it's not necessarily the way to go about trying to win a national mandate. I think you need to be more universal in what you talk about as a political party.
And you can watch that entire conversation with political insiders Ashley Strong and Eric Stern on Sunday's Face the State program. Face the State airs Sunday morning at 9:30 right here on Q2. Yellowstone County election staff started off the morning counting ballots. Mail votes have already been counted, while today staff was still counting ballots that were cast on Election Day. Q2's Mitch Legge brings us more from the county elections administrator.
Some Yellowstone County voters waited in excess of 5 hours to cast their vote inside the Montana Pavilion on election night. On Wednesday, elections officials are counting all of the votes that were cast on election day. The elections administrator, Brett Rutherford, told me on Wednesday that he was surprised at how many people made the last-minute decision to vote.
But it was kind of amazing how many people actually did late registration on election day, just because the close of registration was extended out 3 weeks beyond its normal deadline. So I was really surprised at how many people actually weren't registered or had moved from county to county or precinct to precinct. And then we had quite a few people that just disregarded their mail ballot and went down and got a replacement too. Even though really our office was meant for people to dog ate the ballot or you needed to register, not just another option to vote. So a lot of people did that.
The Montana Pavilion on the Metro Park campus was the only place in the county for people to register to vote or pick up a replacement ballot. Lines were stacked throughout a majority of election day, wrapping around the building and into the fairgrounds parking lot. The last Yellowstone County voter left the Montana Pavilion around 12:45 a.m. election night. He got in line right at 7:59, 1 minute before the polls stopped allowing people to get in line.
I feel special right now. I wasn't really expecting it. I thought either I wasn't gonna make it or they'd close the gates like right before I got in. So this feels pretty good. I got here, I ran through the gates at 7:59, I think, and they just closed the gates right after I got in.
Landon, an 18-year-old freshman at Rocky Mountain College, is originally from California and had to register to vote in Montana. He cast his first ever ballot on election night. Rutherford estimated 85,000 Yellowstone County voters turned out to the general election. If his prediction holds true, that would make for an 81% turnout in the county. While the extended late registration deadline was intended to keep lines short at the polls, Rutherford said he expects more people to register late in future elections.
But I think late registration is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes by, and people are actually lucky in Montana because we're one of the few states that actually does that. A lot of states, if you're not registered on election day, sorry, you don't get a vote.
If you received a written notice or a call from the elections office saying there was a mistake that needed to be fixed with your ballot, that should have been rectified by 5 p.m. Wednesday. All of those votes will be added to the county totals on Monday at 3 p.m. Reporting in Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
Thank you, Mitch. Unofficial results from Yellowstone County show voter turnout at 75% as of news time tonight. Well, Montana races are for the most part settled. The counting of votes for U.S. president continues across the country. CBS News will have a special report. America Decides, still counting, tonight at 8 o'clock right here on Q2. Well, construction has caused traffic backup during peak times in downtown Billings. Taking a live look right now from our iCam, the city and the Department of Transportation have been working on projects at the same time. Q2's David J. joins us now live from 27th Street with more. David?
Well, Russ, we're out here actually now on 4th Avenue North. That's where we set up. Approaching 27th Street, the traffic actually had gotten better for a little bit. Also hearing an ambulance trying to get through. So that's one of the concerns out here as traffic gets jammed up as well. But they're working on the project on 27th from Interstate 90 all the way up to the roundabout. And the crews are out there removing pavement and during the day and then putting in the new asphalt at night. It's part of 2 projects that involve repaving and putting down ADA compliant pedestrian cutouts in the intersections. We're told other parts of the delay involve city work on water mains, but we just talked with the city engineering department, and right now the only work that they have going on right now is at the Rimrock Road, so that'll be finished up soon, they say. But nonetheless, the lane is closed in each direction on parts of 27th Street.
For better or for worse, we've probably got about 2 weeks left of work, and depending on the weather will depend on how quickly we can get that done. And travelers really should expect that there will be sections all along 27th where there's one lane, pretty substantial sections. What we're hearing is if you're right on 27th and you're not taking any of the side streets, you're probably 10 or 15 minute delays. If you're going to try and take a side street and you run into some of the city projects, you could have much more substantial delays.
And traffic may get better in this area. Becky Bai says that some of the work is going to go now shift down to south of the railroad tracks, so they'll be finished up soon in the next 2 or 3 days between Pauley and the railroad tracks. That's the latest from out here. Russ, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks a lot. David J. reporting live tonight. The $13.6 million project started in September of 2019 and may be finished in a couple of more weeks, depending, of course, on the weather. Also adding to the traffic congestion today, a rush of water that shut down the entire MSUB campus. That closure was because of a water main break in the city construction zone on Normal Avenue. Because the main water source had to be completely shut off, students and staff were asked to leave the campus. All activities were also suspended. MSUB says the water is scheduled to be turned back on at some point this evening, and we'll have an update tonight at 8 o'clock on its website, msubillings.edu. A suspect in Sunday morning's King Avenue East shooting has been arrested in Idaho. According to a news release from Billings Police Lieutenant Brandon Woolley, 37-year-old Benil Davis of Billings was stopped yesterday by Idaho State Police while traveling in a vehicle on Interstate 90 outside of Coeur d'Alene. Davis is also being held at the Kootenai County Correctional Facility on a deliberate homicide warrant in connection with the shooting death of 30-year-old Waylon Bearground. Bearground was shot near the 4100 block of King Avenue East early Sunday morning, later died at the hospital. Billings police are coordinating with Idaho State Police, and the investigation continues. COVID-19 numbers continue to rise across the state with nearly 800 new cases and 7 deaths reported today. The 2 latest deaths reported out of Glacier County, while Butte, Silverbow, and Deer Lodge counties also reported 2 this morning. Gallatin County reported the most new cases today with 166, while Yellowstone County saw 67. Montana is up to 432 total deaths, while more than 24,000 people have recovered from the virus. And after last night, Montana will be seeing a little more green across the state. Although voters have approved recreational marijuana, there's still more to the story before sales become official. We'll break that down. That's still ahead on the NTN 530 News here on Q2.
And coming up in weather, we're talking about some warmer temperatures today and again tomorrow. But by the time Friday and Saturday get here, we're looking at the temperatures to fall, and it'll feel more like fall on Sunday and Monday. We're back to snow, folks. We'll tell you all about it coming up in a few more minutes.